Hi, everybody. Welcome. The clock has struck noon in San Francisco, where I am. I see some people here are dialing from the East Coast and others from elsewhere. So welcome to all of you. We'll spend the next hour together. So I'm really excited about that. If you don't know, my name is Lida Tohidi. I'll be running this webinar about mindfulness for go-getters. So you might be wondering a little bit more about who I am. Of course, the Eventbrite shared a little bit about me. I'd like to share a little more about both my professional background as well as my experience with meditation, because they definitely coincide and intersected at interesting points. So I've been a marketer for over 10 years and also meditating for over 10 years. And that's definitely not a coincidence. So working in stressful jobs really drove me to start meditating. And I've also been going to mindfulness retreats, so silent retreats, for the last 5+ years. And I've definitely found that that has developed my practice. I also completed a course in mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is a 8-week course, and that was over 5 years ago as well, and that was really great and really taught me a lot. So it's great to be here with all of you. I see the numbers jumping. Now we're in the 20s of people who are here, so that's really great. I shared a poll that I will now close just so we have an option for another one, and I saw that 100% of the people who voted have meditated before, either alone or with an app. So that's really great to see. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here with you. In terms of professionally, as I was alluding to, I've had a pretty interesting career. I started in the public sector in very large organizations, and then did business school and started working in tech for the majority of my career. So I think a lot of us as part of tech ladies are in these chaotic, organized chaos type of environments, and I can definitely see the benefit of meditation for both myself and others. So yeah, without further ado, I'd like to kick it off. So some logistics, I'm happy to share these slides at the end, and I'll show you where you can drop your email to get them. As well, try to make this as experiential as possible. So I will guide you through a couple of exercises pretty soon after we go through the definitions. So if you have a chance to get into a comfortable spot, that would be ideal for this webinar. So that's a little bit of the intro, and let's get to it. So in case you're wondering, how many people are meditators? Well, the answer based on this study done a few years ago is that over 8% of adults, so over 18 million people, meditate. Granted, this study was from a couple of years ago, so now the numbers I would guess are even higher, and almost 1 million children. So in some ways you could think, wow, this is a lot of people meditating, and in other ways you could think that's not that many. So it's still a minority, but it's definitely an increasing trend. And the reasons are multiple. So essentially, I've seen studies that point to meditation increasing focus, helping with sleep, and a plethora of other reasons. And this study has essentially focused on spiritual meditation, mindfulness, movement, mantra meditation, as well as transcendental meditation as the combination of types that they considered as different types of meditation. And I will also share with you some of the different types of meditation I've personally tried and what has worked for me and what hasn't really worked for me. But I would definitely say that it's a personal decision. So you'll notice that as you kind of get further along in your meditation practice, you might add some combination of things here or there, and that's perfectly great. So also, if you want to stay connected, I'll leave my Twitter handle here at the bottom, and that's the only place you'll see it. It's pretty simple. It's just my first and last name, and the website will be at the bottom of the slides in case you want to grab the slides later. So that's a little bit more about people meditating. And as per the poll, everyone who participated on this webinar and did the poll said they meditated, which is great. So here are some styles of meditation that I have tried. And this is an example of a session that I ran with women at WeWork. So I do also some meditation sessions at corporate offices. So I've also gone to like Capital One, and there it was like 50 people in a room. It was really great to speak with people who work in a bank and run them through some experiential meditation exercises. I've also done this elsewhere within where I teach meditation as well. So that's just the background on the photo. And so when I first started meditation over 10 years ago, I happened to be living in Japan, which is why I started with Zen meditation. And that was really great. I went and stayed at a monastery where essentially you live like a monk or a nun, and you wake up at like 4 a.m. and you're meditating for 11 hours a day, and you're doing chores, and you sleep rather early, but still you sleep at 9 or 10 p.m. and you wake up at 4. So it's a very interesting experience. I did that over a weekend and I really enjoyed it. So that's Zen meditation. One thing that for me was not the best fit was just that there's quite a spiritual element to it. So it's really great if you're a practicing Buddhist, which I'm not. I'm agnostic. So though I'm open to it, this is not something that necessarily was for my calling. So I tried a different style of meditation next, which was visualization meditation. So I went to a bunch of different classes and group sits where someone would guide us through visualization meditations, which were really great. And on the other hand, I found that it was like I would be daydreaming and kind of figuring out who's my spirit animal and whatever the visualization happened to be. It was really fun, but how I essentially knew that I wasn't really making much progress was that I was stressing out and like getting to the place, the meditation class. So I was like, okay, I don't think this visualization meditation is working for me. But for a lot of people, it works. So I definitely wouldn't discount any of these options. The third style of meditation I tried, which was probably over 6 years ago now, was Kundalini meditation, which tends to be tied in with Kundalini yoga. And it's a type of breath work called pranayama that you're essentially increasing your energy as you meditate, which is amazing. Again, it was something where I really enjoyed it in the moment, but I felt like I was being called to something else. So I then tried Qigong, which you may or may not have heard of. It's a traditional Chinese movement type of meditation. So essentially, it looks similar to Tai Chi if you're seeing it from far away. And in that sense, the Qi or the life force is the same, but it's a different practice and it involves different elements of meditation. So that's what I tried. And then over 5 years ago, I was like, okay, I want something that's kind of bare bones. And I asked a friend who happened to be teaching at a Tibetan monastery, and he recommended this retreat that practiced the Vipassana style of meditation, which that word in Pali, which is an ancient language that used to exist in India, means to see things as they are. And he essentially told me about it, let's say on a Monday, and already by the Sunday, as I moved back to Canada, where I'm from, I was enrolled in a 10-day silent retreat in the Vipassana tradition. Of course, it helped that, I was living an hour away from one of these meditation centers, but it is something that I think is definitely a personal choice, because for a lot of my friends, when I, was telling them that I did this, they were really surprised because I'm generally a pretty bubbly person, and they were really surprised that I could even be silent for 10 days, let alone, practice meditation for 11 hours a day, which is what is required in the Vipassana tradition. So again, I'm not recommending one of these meditation styles or other, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, but that's just kind of my experience. And then to top off the Vipassana meditation, after you sit, you spend the end of the meditation in loving kindness, and that's also called metta meditation. And that's essentially wishing well for others, and where you probably hear a lot the expression, may all beings everywhere be free from suffering. That's very similar to loving kindness meditation. So there's also transcendental meditation, there's heart rhythm meditation, there's a lot of different types, and you can get very niche. And I'm happy to address questions if you have specific questions on any of these types of meditation and my experience with them. But without further ado, I'd like to get into the experiential part of this webinar, if you don't mind, especially now that I see 40 of us are here, which is great. So this exercise is pretty simple, and it's a 3-part exercise. There are 3 breaths that we will take together. One will be obviously deep inhale, exhale, and that is to let go of the past, of the previous part of today. The second breath will be inhaling and exhaling and letting go of our future planning mind. And then the third and last, and my favorite, which is a deep inhale and exhale, and that's to really center us in the present, because we will do another 2 exercises that are longer, and it will really kind of get us in the mood, less thinking up here and more feeling. So hopefully this works for you. So let's take our first deep inhale and exhale. And this essentially is recognizing that maybe you have had a very busy morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, and maybe it took some extreme planning or frenzy to get here and make sure you're on the webinar with the rest of us, and just letting that kind of tension release. So that's the first breath. The second breath, inhale and exhale. This is to acknowledge that we all, run busy lives, and that I'm sure after this webinar you have something else going on in your day, and you might be thinking, how do I plan that meeting, or what's for lunch, or any of those things. And that breath is really to signify letting go of that planning mind as much as possible anyway, because we are all human. And the third and final deep inhale and exhale. This is to acknowledge that you have taken the time for self-care, for mindfulness. You're all here, and as much as possible, and even though I know we're on a webinar, if it's possible for you to be engaged for this duration, that's really great for you. And of course, we will get this recording, in a few days, but there's nothing better than the present moment to practice mindfulness. So that's our first exercise. So all of you have survived and done that really well. So moving on to the next one. Essentially, let's figure out what is mindfulness. And this is something that sometimes people ask me, what is meditation and how does it differ from mindfulness? So the simplest explanation that I have for you is meditation is essentially the inner awareness, and mindfulness is awareness of your whole environment. So that could, be done open-eyed, and mindfulness just means the spirit in which you approach your outward life. So again, meditation is almost always closed-eyed and you're going inward. Mindfulness is a way that I see of approaching life. So of course, it depends on whom you ask. So if you ask a very established monk, he may tell you, mindfulness shows us what is happening in our bodies, our emotions, our minds, and in the world. Through mindfulness, we avoid harming ourselves and others. And if you ask an American mindfulness practitioner, she may tell you, mindfulness is the aware, balanced acceptance of the present experience. It isn't more complicated than that. It is opening to or receiving the present moment, pleasant or unpleasant, just as it is, without either clinging to it or rejecting it. Now, as someone who's been meditating for over 10 years, I can tell you it is one of the simplest, but definitely not easy things to do. So it's very simple to tell someone, watch your breath. And then, of course, as we're humans and we have brains that think, soon, you'll be monitoring your inhale and exhale, and then you'll be like in the thought world somewhere, and you might be in the past or the present moment. So how I like to think of it is, if you think of this circle as your awareness, mindfulness is essentially this circle being in the present space, like in the present moment, which sounds simple, but it's very difficult to practice. Usually what happens is our awareness starts in the present moment, focusing, let's say, on our breath as an anchor, and then it quickly goes to the past. And then quickly the awareness might go to the future. And very rarely, for most people, is the awareness in the present. So that's how I would define the difference between the two. So hopefully that's a bit clearer. And now, without further ado, our next longer exercise. And for this one, I would ask you that, you could look at the screen and read the questions, but I would ask, just to get in the spirit of meditating, if you could either close your eyes, or if you'd rather, you could have a soft gaze away from the screen towards the ground or somehow else. And I will have music that's playing in the background that is essentially to make this a more easeful transition to your experience. Okay, so again, closing your eyes, or if you feel comfortable, you could just have a soft gaze. So believe it or not, we are at the halfway mark of 2018, and this exercise is a reflection on the year thus far. There will be two parts to the exercise. One, which is about acknowledging and letting go, and two, which is about reflecting and celebrating. And I will guide you through both of them. So taking a deep inhale and exhale. Think of a time in this year where you held back or limited yourself. Thinking of what could use improvement in your life. And lastly, what might you do differently, knowing what you know now? And now, in the second part of the exercise, we'll be reflecting and celebrating. So, in the year thus far, for what event or to whom were you most grateful for? What were you the most proud of achieving thus far in 2018? And what was a major milestone? Okay, so keeping your eyes closed or still having the soft gaze, we'll be switching exercises and doing another one. So just before we do that, this exercise was meant to be more in the thinking space where I know I am for the large majority of the time. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just want to have you reflect right now on how you feel having done this exercise. And then soon, when we do the other exercise, which will be a body scan, which will be, with our heart and the rest of our body, I want you to then reflect on how you feel after that exercise. And again, I will guide you. There will be some nice, calm music in the background, and we will be able to reflect on both of these exercises after we're done. So again, this is part of my daily meditation practice. It's a body scan. We're essentially going to scan from the top of our heads to our toes and back. And we're looking for any sensations. So this could be really like the touch of clothing on your skin. It could be the feeling of tension, maybe even spaciousness. But I would say if you have any discomfort or if the sensation is intense, you should definitely attempt to soften to that. So the point isn't to be uncomfortable when we meditate. The point is really to soften to any discomfort there is and be present for any sensations. Now you may think, okay, I have no sensations I feel in parts of my body. And that's perfectly normal. So you'll have some neutral sensations, you have some pleasant sensations, you may even have like some slight pain or discomfort, which might be unpleasant. And the goal of this exercise is really just to observe, which is the goal of all meditation exercises. So without further ado, I will put on the music and we will meditate. It will be roughly 10 minutes. And again, feel free to close your eyes. I will also close my eyes for this. And you can also have a soft gaze towards the floor. So starting at the top of the head, moving your awareness and your attention to the top of the head. Noticing if there's any sensations you feel in your forehead. Your eyebrows, eyes. Again, if there's any tension of any kind, feel free to soften to that. Moving your awareness to your nose. Your mouth. chin, your entire face. Moving your attention now to your neck. Feeling any sensations around your collarbones. Again, if you get distracted or you're caught up in a thought, that's perfectly normal. Just join us back where we are, which is now at the right shoulder. The right upper arm, elbow, lower arm, your right wrist, right hand, thumb, index, middle, ring, and pinky finger. No matter where you are, join us now and bring your awareness to your left shoulder. Your left upper arm, left elbow, left lower arm, left wrist, left hand, thumb, index, middle, ring, and pinky finger. Even if you're distracted, just meet us breathing into your chest, moving your awareness to your whole torso, including the back, and belly. Moving your awareness now to your pelvis and hips. Again, no matter where you are, joining us at the right thigh. Back of the thigh. The right knee. And lower right leg. Your right ankle. Foot. And all toes. Again, no matter where you are, joining us now at the left thigh. The back of the thigh. Moving your awareness to your knee. Lower left leg. Left ankle. Left foot. And to close our meditation, all the left toes. Slowly deepening your breath, bringing your awareness outward now to the room. Would you believe it? We have meditated together for 10 minutes. I'd love to have any questions you have about the two exercises we just did, any comments, any experience. Feel free to pop it into the chat box or the Q&A, and I'll let everyone just take a breather for a minute while you're coming back to the room. And for those who are raising your hand, it would be lovely if you put your question or thought into the chat box, just because that's the easiest way for us to communicate. Okay, great. So Susie asks, do you have any tips for the body scan when dealing with chronic pain? I always have back pain and get anxiety about doing the body scan before focusing on the back pain because it makes it feel more present? Okay, that's a great question, Susie. So what I've been told by my teachers and those who practice meditation in the same Vipassana tradition is to be as present with the pain, but to obviously not linger there. And I can tell you from personal experience, I took my first retreat experience almost too seriously. So by day 10, I had ice packs on both knees because I was just sitting cross-legged 11 hours a day, maybe more, because I was trying to be a good student, meditating for 10 days. So anything that you do like that to your body will create pain. So I remember the only time you can speak is to the teacher. And the teacher said, you know, when you are going to notice your knees and the pain you have there, don't just linger there, of course, because then that does make it feel more acute. But also, if you go through the body scan and you skip your knees entirely, then that's doing you a disservice because the pain will still be there. And meditation is not going to fix any of these problems, especially physical ones, but it definitely teaches you to not block any emotions that you have or block any sensations that you have. So hopefully that answers your question. So even if it means, you know, you're going through the body scan and spending a little less time in the back because you have back pain, doing it a little bit at a time will actually increase your capacity. And Courtney is being really great and suggesting some meditation guidance from a website on UCLA. I love it. So if there's any other questions, I'm happy to take them at this time and then at the end as well. Okay, great. So Anne is asking, the meditation with the questions about the first half of 2018 was great, but she's wondering how that type of meditation could be done more frequently. The questions felt so big in scope. So I'll get to the second part of your question. So actually that was done by design. So I know for myself, if I do exercises that are like thinking and in the mind, I will always have like answers for myself and kind of probe further, but then I'll still always stay in the mind, which is part of the reason why I started meditating over 10 years ago, because I wanted to get more in the feeling and in the body. So there's nothing wrong with it. I just wanted to juxtapose the feeling you would have after doing the more thinking type of reflection, which is actually not a meditation per se, because meditation is on the present moment. So the other one was our past and our future thinking modes, and this was the present moment. And it's just to juxtapose the feeling. So you are right. The questions were very big in scope, and it's just to show you what it would be like to have those different mindsets, whether your present awareness is here with the body scan, whether it would be in the past with the reflection, or in the future with the what you hope to accomplish. And then another question is, would frequent meditations use the same questions but with a focus on the previous day or week or something else? So yes, there's a lot of different meditations, and what I've noticed is that I really like doing a combination of things. I like doing body scan plus breath work. So anytime I get distracted and I'm like, where was I in the body? I do an inhale and exhale, because one thing that is certain in life is that your breath will always be there for you. So it's reliable in that sense. So anytime you get very distracted, you can come back to the breath. So I like combining things. So for you, if it helps to have questions or mantras or anything else, you can feel free to do that and do it as often as you'd like. Okay. Susie says, thank you. It's helpful. I need to work on acknowledging the pain and simply moving forward. And great. I'm glad I answered your questions. Val says, any way to get a copy of those questions in the first half? Yes. And thank you for the kind words. Yeah, so definitely I can share with you at the end of the presentation how to get the entire slides, and then you also all get the recording. So I know we have 20 minutes left. I have a lot of other exercises I want to get through with you. So let's do that. Happy to continue to answer questions. Feel free to pop them into the Q&A as we go. So this is great because it's very timely for the slide that I have now, which is what I call group magic. So you saw that like Anne and Susie and others kind of helped each other, gave some resources. And to be honest, I've never before a few years ago been part of women in tech groups. And I'm really, really glad that I found my way into them. So this photo is from a panel that I was part of through West, which is a women in tech mentorship program. And it was a sold out event. And I can tell you it was probably my best experience as a speaker, just because everyone was so, friendly. And there were a few guys in the room and allies, and that was even better because it's, they felt the space was inclusive enough for them to show up, even though it was a women in tech group. So that's just to say that even though men and women communicate and approach life differently, when we do have these spaces, when we have women around us, I would say we have natural mentors and role models. And I would also argue that we become more successful ourselves as we support other women. There's this saying that, and apparently studies show that we are also the average of the 5 people with whom we spend the most time. So it's been really great to be part of communities like Tech Ladies, West, Expat Women, because my vision really with my work, both in meditation and outside of it, is to empower every woman who I work with to step confidently into her place in the world. So hopefully you get that sense. And if you're interested in learning more about a support group that I'm putting together with a theme of resilience, so essentially picking up when you have a block and using what those might be seen as issues to your strengths, that's going to be our focus, is resilience. And the kickoff is actually next Tuesday. So if you want to find out more information, feel free to check out the website, which the link is on the bottom of almost all the slides, paidar.com, which coincidentally means resilient in Persian, which is my first language. And yeah, so just wanted to put that out there. And I'm really glad that, spontaneously right before these slides, women came to each other's aid and, helped get answers and share resources, and that's what we hope to do. So anyway, I'll give you a little more information at the end, but I wanted to let you know about it here. So as you were promised, I will help to facilitate essentially putting together a mindful routine with you, and that's essentially for you to continue from this webinar and get more out of it than the exercises we'll do together. So I'm really glad we have the time to do those. These are 5 that I've shared. Again, there's so many resources out there, and these are just very practical tips, because I'm a very pragmatic person, of incorporating what I call the mindful minute into every day. So we'll go through them one at a time, and you can feel free to ask any questions if you have any in the meantime. So here, the first one is mindful bites, which can also be mindful drinks. I used to multitask quite a lot when I ate. So I would, be working and having lunch in front of my computer. But honestly, some of those times I would eat the entire salad or sandwich, and I wouldn't fully consciously realize that I'd done so because I'd actually been working, not really having lunch. So my challenge to you is to pick one meal of every day. And, it's fine to skip some days because you'll forget, as I did. And take 1 minute of that meal and do so mindfully. So, of course, not all of our meals are going to be as delightful looking as this chocolate cake. I have a sweet tooth myself. So it's really easy to be mindful and enjoy the texture and the taste and the feeling of actually enjoying this meal. But even with the, more traditional, normal sandwich, salad, whatever is your go-to, your muesli or cereal in the morning, one meal every day, 1 minute of that meal, even if it's the last bite, and you're like, oh, I remembered. Doing so mindfully is great. And the picture I showed you earlier with all the women around the table, I can go back to it so you see I do this with groups as well. So if you notice, there's snacks. There's definitely some chocolate covered almonds there, and some people want it to be healthier, chose grapes. So it could really be even the smallest, snack, and just doing so mindfully can make your meditation fun. So that's the first one, I will say. Secondly, air on skin. This could also be the feeling of clothing on your skin. So if you are outside, of course, it's a lot easier to notice the air on your skin. You can do so with open eyes. You can do so with closed eyes. And then even if you're in an air-conditioned office, you can also feel the clothing on your skin or the air on your skin. So that's another mindful minute that I could challenge you to do every day or whenever you remember, because 60 seconds of mindfulness in a day is better than 0 seconds. I have to remind myself of that as kind of an all or nothing thinker before. This third one, which we'll practice together in a second, is also really great if you're having like an anxious moment or anxious time. It's deep breathing. You'd be surprised how easy it is to kind of get from a really stressful meeting you had and then carry that stress throughout the rest of your day. And what we want to do is have a break in between. And a break can literally be a minute while you are walking to your next meeting or going to get a coffee, whatever it might be. Doing this deep breathing, you can do the count from all the way from 3 all the way till like I've seen 7 or 8. Today we'll do the count of 4. So what it is we'll inhale for 4, we'll hold the breath for 4, and we'll exhale for 4, okay? So inhaling, holding the breath, exhaling. Inhale, hold the breath, exhale. Inhale, hold, exhale. So you can choose to do this as many times as you like. I would say beyond a minute might kind of be a lot to start with. So as someone who's not used to this practice, just doing this for even 4 breaths is plenty. So that's something, again, a mindful minute every day, trying to be practical. The next is mindful tasks. So I don't know about you, but I used to multitask quite a lot. And then it led to me being quite absent-minded, like wondering if I left the stove on or like didn't lock the door, leaving things behind. And part of it was actually not the problem of the fact that I was doing 2 things at a time. There's some things you can multitask, right? You can walk and talk. But there's a lot of things that I felt I could multitask that I couldn't. And actually, it's been shown in studies that most of the time when we're multitasking, there's that switching cost that we don't take into account. So even if a task might be really tedious, doing so mindfully will make it actually seem more of an experience and less of a chore. So for example, I do this with washing the dishes. So I used to try to, wash the dishes and be like efficient and do multiple things at a time. But now it's just, I let the water wash over my hands, and I'm very mindful of like the temperature of the water, the soap, how it feels on my skin, and washing the dishes. We even have a dishwasher. So I'm like just doing this as an exercise. So you can do this again as a mindful way to bring a minute or more of mindfulness into your day. And last but not least, that I will share with you is a mindful routine. So I started last year with a morning routine, and maybe some of you have either a morning or an evening routine. And I think it's really helpful because it sets you off into the day in a mindful way or closes you out in a mindful way. Kudos to those who have both a morning and evening routine. Hopefully I'll work my way into that. So essentially when I wake up, I, go to the restroom, I shower, I come out, I meditate, I journal, I eat breakfast. I then listen to the news. Like I have a timed amount of time that I'll listen to the news, so I'm aware of things. Then I launch into work. So that's really helpful. And again, there's no prescription for it because it's very much dependent on your personal life and what works for you or not. But bringing even a minute of mindful routine into your day, whatever that may be, is really helpful. So I don't know if you have any questions on these 5 techniques that I mentioned. Feel free to pop them into the Q&A, and I'd be happy to address them. We have 10 minutes together, so I will go through the last set of slides and stick around also for any lingering questions you have, but feel free to put them into the Q&A or into the chat box. So you may be wondering, like, how do I strengthen practice? And the reason why, meditation is called a practice, because you have to do it multiple times. The one thing I will say is that the idiom practice makes perfect is actually not the case in most cases, and definitely not with meditation. So it's reported that they even asked monks who live in recluse, what is the most challenging part of their lives? And the answer was being present. So when the experts, so-called experts, are having trouble being present all the time, you can be assured that it's a human condition and that you shouldn't feel dissuaded. But if you do feel like you need a little bit more motivation, I recommend some things. So depending on where you are, if you are in a relatively big town or a city, there's definitely communities that you can join that are called sanghas for meditation practitioners. There's meetups that you could join as well. So I'm part of a couple of different communities here in San Francisco. There's also a great combination that you could do with a physical activity or flow activity. So whether that means, you like walking a labyrinth, like this person in this photo, maybe you like sailing. In my case, I couple the meditation with a yoga practice. So that really helps me to keep motivated, because I know I will actually be able to be a better yoga practitioner if I also meditate. And last but not least, I really think it's beneficial, especially when you're starting out or coming back to meditation after a break, to have an accountability partner. And that could be just anyone that and you text them every day saying, I meditated today. And if you don't text them, then they message you and say, why didn't you meditate? Ideally, you tell them in person, but I know with our modern lives, probably there's some technology involved. So these are what I would recommend as strengthening practice. And in this case, practice makes progress, which then leads to more practice and progress, which is always great. I'll end with letting you know a little bit more about the mastermind and support group, because we do have an accountability partner as part of it. So again, if you're interested in learning more, feel free to check out the website, pidaar.com. There's the last couple of seats left. Some logistics, we'll meet on Zoom every week. And if you are in San Francisco, you can feel free to come to my office. So it'll be like now, where I'm in San Francisco, and most people are in a webinar. We'll definitely cover topics like mindfulness, what success looks like to us, relationship to failure, what is our end game, leveraging our network, mentorship and coaching. So every person, and this is limited to only a handful of women, is going to get a private session with a life coach, and you can use that to think about your career or otherwise. So don't worry, we'll definitely be busy. And I would say the best person, or in the best case scenario, because we're doing this starting next week, and so far most people who are in the group are either going through a career transition or they're making a shift in their career. So they're moving from a non-tech role into the tech world. That would be like the ideal case, is if you resonate with one of those, to life situation. So if you're in a career transition or at some point you want to make a switch in your career, feel free to sign up. And this is my one sentence of mindful selling, which is there's a discounted price of $199, and that essentially covers the fees I will pay to keep this going, and there will be expert speakers as well. So that's just to keep it going, and this will be just for you folks here on the webinar, and it's available until Friday, so you can feel free to email me, and I'll share that with you at the end if you have any questions and you want to learn more. The regular price for everyone else is $299, and then I'm putting together a course in the fall, which will be a lot more involved and longer, and that will cost a lot more. Again, I'm happy to discuss any options of financing or volunteering for folks who have extenuating circumstances. So with that out of the way, thank you for listening. I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, someone's asking how long is the course. So we started with the idea of doing a 6-week course, and that has now changed to 4 weeks. So we'll just meet for longer sessions at a time. And then there may be a kickoff on August 3rd if there's enough interest. Yeah, so that's just a little more about that. I'm happy to stick around. I know we have a few minutes left, but I'm happy to stick around as long as people have any questions they want to ask. So I'll address something that was brought up a couple of times. If you want the slides, feel free to email me. My email is info@ltohidi.com. So my first initial, last name. And if you want to tweet at me, feel free. It's Lita Tohidi, also pretty simple. The recording will be sent by Tech Ladies. So that I've been told will be sent to you by next week at the very latest. But if you want the slides, today for any reason, feel free to email me and I'm happy to send them to you. Yay, Courtney, Lauren, and someone else, Anonymous, and Brittany, everyone say thank you. Thank you all for being here, and almost everyone's here at the top of the hour, so I really appreciate it. Again, I'm happy to address any questions that you may have. You can email me for whatever other reason if you come up with a question that you haven't asked yet. Again, it's at the bottom of the slide, info@ltohidi.com. If you're interested on exploring this theme of resilience with us as part of our support group and mastermind, the kickoff is next Tuesday. There's a couple of seats available. And again, if you do have interest and you just can't do it until August, please let me know so that I know there's interest for it in August. So we have 2 more minutes. Any final burning questions? Happy to address with my meditation mug here. Wow, so many kind words. Thank you, everybody, for appreciating the presentation. I'm glad because, especially at the beginning when I asked in the poll if everyone had meditated, just to get a sense of the audience, everyone who voted said yes. So I love that. It's great. That means you're all experts in this field. Lauren asks, do you recommend any meditation groups in San Francisco? So yes, I do. I really like Against the Stream. So you can email me if you want the links, but there's Against the Stream, which has locations in SF and Oakland, and I believe LA as well. And there's another group called Wake Up SF, which is for folks like 40 and under. And then they have one which is for people older. They just want to have different ages kind of have different aspects and life transitions. So Wake Up SF and Against the Stream are the 2 that I go to pretty frequently. There's so many others that I'm happy to point you in the direction of. So feel free to email me if you want other links. Also, if anybody wants links to meditation retreats, I'm happy to share them. I can share the link into the chat now for the one that I went to, which is the Vipassana meditation retreat. So you can just go to dhamma.org and you pick essentially where in the world you are, which I'm assuming everyone's in the US. And then there's different locations all around the US for that. If you do want to go on a silent retreat, I would recommend that you read about it. A lot of people, including myself, have written about their experience, and I would just recommend, having done it myself without doing that, that you kind of research a little bit so you know which is the right fit for you. So I always try to be mindful of everyone's time and respecting your time. Thank you so much for spending the entire hour with me. Most people are still here, and I really appreciate it. Happy to follow up with any of you individually. Feel free to email me, again, info@altawhidi.com. Check out pidaar.com if you're interested in the Mastermind support group. And I really wish you a great rest of your day wherever you are. Thank you, everyone, for joining.